Hello everyone and welcome to my video covering Labyrinth and the new cards that will be added to Master Duel shortly. As I'm writing this, it's speculated that Labyrinth will be added to the game based on promotional material from Konami prominently featuring the card. This means that I'm making this video before we know exactly what cards will be added to the game, but we still have a pretty good idea. And since the cards aren't in the game yet, I'll be using the Omega Yu-Gi-Oh! Simulator for this video. But before we get into all that, I'd just like to extend a sincere thank you to everyone who left a like on my last video. You guys blew it up with over 10% liking the video. And it really helps me out, so thank you. It helps the algorithm push my videos and helps them show up higher in the search results. So if you like what I do here, please click that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Alright, with that out of the way, let's talk Labyrinth. I've covered this deck previously on the channel, but it's one of the first videos I ever made, so it's not terrific and this will be a much needed update. Labyrinths are a fiend/dark focus deck and uses normal trap cards and gains bonuses when they're used. There is an extra deck in here, but it's not normally the focus of the deck. The variant I've built is based on a second place deck in a Korean tournament adapted for Master Duel, and it runs Tour Guide, which means we have greater extra deck access compared to other Labyrinth players. Let's start with the newest card, Lady Labyrinth. It's a level 8 3000 attack Dark Fiend with 3 effects. First, while we control a set card, it's protected from targeted effects and destruction. The second effect is a quick effect. If a Labyrinth card or effect or a normal trap was activated this turn except itself, we can special summon this card. And the last effect is also a quick effect. When a normal trap is activated, you can set a normal trap with a different name from the deck. A protected 3k body that special summons itself and searches any normal trap in the game, it's absolutely crazy. This will give Labyrinth a much needed bump in strength and hopefully allow it to tussle with decks like Tearlament. Its second effect to special summon itself works perfectly with the other card that is speculated to be added at the same time as Lady Labyrinth, and that's Big Welcome Labyrinth. It has 2 effects. First, special summon one Labyrinth monster from your hand, deck or graveyard and then return a monster from the field to the hand. And second, we can banish this card from the graveyard and target a fiend we control and put it back to hand. If we control a level 8 or higher fiend monster, we can target our opponent's cards instead. And any card that can special summon pretty much any monster you like from the hand, deck or graveyard is amazing in my book. On top of that, it can also disrupt our opponent or let us bounce our own cards to protect them. And what isn't immediately obvious is that you can summon Lady Labyrinth with this on an empty field, bounce it back and then special summon it using its own effect. Thanks to us activating a Labyrinth normal trap, allowing us to work around the bounce cost for the special summon. So when this is added, we will also be able to loop between Big Welcome and Regular Welcome thanks to Lady Labyrinth search effect, setting the one we didn't activate from deck. Overall, 2 amazing new additions to the archetype, and I predict that we'll bring back Labyrinth to the competitive scene in a pretty big way. Let's take a look at the rest of the deck, starting with the other Labyrinth monsters. First up we have Ariana the Labyrinth Servants, and it has 2 effects. A basic search that grabs a Labyrinth card on normal or special summon, and the more interesting second effect. If another monster leaves the field by normal trap effect, we first draw a card and then we can either special a fiend from our hand or set a spell or trap from our hand, one of our core cards, and be aware she can only use her effects once per turn. Next up, Storvy Torby and Chandraglier. Both of these have very similar effects. First, they can discard themselves and another card to set any Labyrinth spell or trap from the deck or hand. Then, if a monster leaves the field by our normal trap effect, we can add Chandraglier to hand or special summon Storvy Torby. The search is very good, especially since I only run 1 copy of the field spell, and the recycling themselves is also very nice. Coup Clock is similar to the other 2, but allows us to use a normal trap that was set this turn instead of searching. And if we send a card from the hand to the graveyard to activate our normal trap or Labyrinth card, we can either add it back or special summon it. Making a trap quick play is always nice, and this can be really clutch sometimes to just cheat something out with a welcome. Finally, last of the Labyrinth monsters is the original boss monster, Lovely Labyrinth. She has 3 effects. First, your opponent cannot activate monsters effects in response to our normal trap cards. Second, we can target a normal trap in our grave and set it. And finally, if another monster leaves the field by our normal trap card, we can destroy a card in our opponent's hand at random or the field we choose. Which is obviously very good, being able to recycle stuff, protects our traps, and destroy stuff. Amazing. And that wraps up all the Labyrinth monsters. Let's take a look at the spells and traps. Starting with their field spell, Labyrinth, which has two effects. If we activate a set Welcome Labyrinth, and yes, that does count both of them, we can add this additional effect to it. Destroy a card on the field. If we activate a non-Labyrinth normal trap, we can special summon one Fiend monster from our hand or graveyard. This is one of the main ways we interrupt our opponent. The additional pop on our welcomes is amazing, and played well can shut down an entire turn. And since it's an additional effect on our trap cards, it will trigger all the effects that has to do with cards leaving the field via normal trap. And the fact that it's a monster reborn on top of that just makes it even better. And then the last of the Labyrinth card, we have Welcome Labyrinth. Special summon one Labyrinth monster from our deck, and until the end of the next turn, we cannot special summon monsters except fiends. If a monster leaves the field by normal trap while this card is in the graveyard, we can set this card. It's a special summon from the deck and a pop with a field spell, and it resets itself. It's very good. As I said at the beginning of the video, I run Tour Guide with Sangan as the main target. If you don't know Tour Guide, it can special summon a level 3 Fiend from the deck on normal summon, and this means easy link 2s or rank 3s, but I'll cover that in more detail when we get to the extra deck. Then we have just some random cards. Skarm is in here to send off Cherubini and allows us to search for a level 3 Fiend in the end phase. Modora allows us to loop back our important cards like Labyrinth should they get destroyed, or let us fill the deck back up should we run out of traps. Dimensional Barrier is an excellent normal trap against any deck that isn't solely focused on Link summoning. It allows us to call one type of extra deck monster except Link and then prevents special summoning of the type, and negates any existing cards of that type on the field. Ice Dragon's Prison is great removal, allowing us to basically banish a card from both our opponent's field and graveyard. Imperm negates both monsters and back row, and since it's a normal trap, we can loop it back using Lovely Labyrinth and search it with Lady. Terrors of the Overroot is another good removal trap, allows us to choose a card on our opponent's field and one in the grave, and then sends the card from the field to the graveyard and sets the card from the graveyard to the field. This sounds bad on paper until you realize you can set something useless like Maxi. And then the final card of the main deck is Skill Drain. Negates all monsters' effects on the board, and since we can do a lot with only our traps, we can easily work around Skill Drain while hopefully hamstringing our opponent. Onto the extra deck. Starting with Stone King and Divisor King. We can go into Stone King with Tour Guide, and then we summon Divisor King using Stone King as material. And Stone King's effects aren't important. Divisor King, on the other hand, allows us to attach our opponent's monsters to it if they activate their effects. Played well, this is great removal and interruption. Next up are our level 4s, Abyss Dweller and Baguska. Abyss Dweller is the current MVP thanks to Tearlament. It locks the opponent from using the graveyard. Baguska negates the board and can allow us to stall out the game and use our amazing advantage loops in our normal traps to win the long game. And Zeus is also in here since we have decent Xyz access. And next up are the links, starting from the smallest and working our way up. Almirage, this allows us to link away useless stuff and hopefully set up more plays. Then we have the aforementioned Cherubini, which has 3 effects. First, it protects any monsters it points to from destruction. Then, if itself would be destroyed, it can send a card we control to the graveyard instead. And finally, it can send a level 3 monster to the graveyard and boost itself by its stats. We can use Tour Guide and Sangan to go into this and then use it to send Skarm, allowing us to search twice. First via Sangan and then at the end phase via Skarm. Then we can climb even higher using any of our Labyrinth stuff, and the protection is of course very good. IP Masquerena can link summon on our opponent's turn and protects from destruction. Dark steals a monster from our opponent's graveyard and searches if destroyed. Nightmare Phoenix is back row removal and Nightmare Unicorn is universal removal. Then we have Blackluster Soldier, and this guy has popped up more and more in my deck lists, and for good reason. He's a mini Avermax with smaller investment and more lenient summoning requirements. If we use a level 7 or higher monsters as material, he is protected from targeting and destruction, and if he destroys a monster by battle, he can either banish a card, attack twice the following turn, or gain 1500 attack. It's pretty good, and it's easily available in the Gaia structure deck. Unchained Abomination, unlikely we climbed this high, but I was running out of ideas for the extra deck, and since we destroy a lot of cards, we can also trigger its effects to destroy even more cards. Then we have Avermax. Why settle for BLS when we can have the real deal? If summoned using IP Masquerena, which I would always recommend, it's protected against destruction, battle, and targeted effects, and protects our other monsters from battle by forcing the opponent to attack Avermax. One of my favorite cards right now. Finally, Underworld Goddess. Can use a monster the opponent controls as material, negates their entire board on summon, negates card in the graveyard, and is unaffected against any effect that doesn't target it specifically. It's a pretty crazy boss monster I've enjoyed using more and more. You'd be surprised by how many people don't know about the unaffected part of Underworld's effect. So that's the list. The rest of the deck is either generic staples or hand traps, which is of course all down to personal preference. I would like to quickly discuss Muckraker from the Underworld before I hand this off to Combo Max. It's a Link 2 needing 2 effect monsters as material. It can special summon a Fiend monster from the graveyard at the cost of a discard, and this would of course be fantastic in this deck as a Link climb tool. But since there's no indication that this will be added along with the new Labyrinth cards, I held off from including it in the deck. Now let's get into the combo. Alright everybody, so this is the combo for Labyrinth. Now Labyrinth doesn't really have combos, it's more of a control style of a deck, but we do have some fun plays we can do. I open with Tour Guide here, so I'm gonna start summoning it and grab a Sangan. Now our opponent did activate Maxi, so they're gonna be able to draw a few cards here, but that's gonna have to be fine. Then we can go into Cherubini, which will activate our Sangan to search. We can add really anything we'd like. We can add Ghost Ogre, Ash Blossom, you know, Maxi. We can grab Maxi, why not? Then we can activate Cherubini to send the Skarn to the graveyard and boost itself by a little bit. Then we can use the Storby Torby and we can toss our Welcome Labyrinth to search out our field spell. Activate that, set Big Welcome, set Skill Drain, and pass. Skarn will activate in the end phase, either giving us a search with the Chandrangelier or another Tour Guide for next turn. And I kinda like the Tour Guide for next turn. So we have Skill Drain, we have Big Welcome Labyrinth. And we're facing Salamangreat as usual on my channel. I'm gonna activate Maxi here, just because we can. Lady Debug is going to be summoned out, but I'm kinda waiting for the Link 1 here to interrupt them. There it comes out, we can activate Big Labyrinth, and we can activate the Lady Labyrinth in hand to summon it. And then we can actually special summon out the lovely Labyrinth. And I probably should have waited with the Lady to activate it now after the Big Welcome goes away. Now I kinda messed it up, but that's okay. Gazelle is going to activate, and we have a bunch of stuff we can do too. We can destroy a card in our opponent's hand, we can activate Welcome Labyrinth to set it, and then we can activate Labyrinth Storby Torby to special summon himself. So we get this kind of nice advantage loop here, where the Big Labyrinth and our other cards just loop back all the time, and we will be able to summon Lady Labyrinth next turn, and every time we activate a normal trap, Welcome Labyrinth next turn, we will be able to search the Big Welcome and then just keep cycling those. Here I think I'm just gonna skill drain him. Yep, it's fine. He can do Cherubini. That's okay. So here on the Crackback we have stuff in here. I can actually bounce his monster back with Big Welcome. And then we can do our welcome labyrinth, chain the lady labyrinth, set that, summon out a... doesn't really matter, I just want the attack here, I think. Then we get the activation of the field spell, we can clear something in the back row out. And yeah, this is starting to look pretty good. Potentially could go into something using these, maybe if we normal this girl. Won't use her effect here, but could go into a Nightmare Unicorn that should bring us over the line over to lethal. And we can use its effect, just discard this Storvy and shuffle back this, whatever. Alright. My own skill rain, of course. But then just, you know, swing in and go for again. The lady does give us this nice bump in that we're not only relying on the lovely labyrinth, we also have the second monster, and it's so much easier to get this out because it can special summon itself. Lovely labyrinth is very reliant on other cards bringing it out, the welcome and the labyrinth, bringing it out from either grave or deck, while the lady labyrinth can just summon herself easily, and you didn't get to see it here, but she also searches normal traps, which is really awesome. And bam, so the game plan is really just use our strong search power in the tour guide kind of engine, and the very powerful traps with the labyrinth field spell and the welcomes, popping stuff and summoning out big monsters and then just swinging for game. It's a control-based deck, it's really fun, it's really strong in a little bit longer games, you didn't get to see that here. But then you really get to use the lovely labyrinth's ability to set back our traps, so we can just imperm every turn. It's really good. But with that, I'm gonna thank you guys very much for watching, ask you to like, comment and subscribe, you know the drill. I'll see you guys later, bye.